Minnesota's governor has mobilized the state's National Guard in response to ongoing protests over a federal immigration enforcement operation that has roiled Minneapolis and St. Paul, officials said, though troops have not yet been deployed onto city streets. The action comes amid daily demonstrations sparked by the January 7th fatal shooting of Renee Nicole Good, a 37-year-old Minneapolis mother, by an agent of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. A confrontation that has provoked widespread public outrage and protests in the Twin Cities and beyond. Governor Tim Walz, Democrat Minnesota, directed the Minnesota National Guard to mobilize and be staged and ready to support local law enforcement and emergency management agencies if needed. Guard officials stressed that the troops are currently on standby and not patrolling streets, but would assist in protecting life, preserving property, and supporting the rights of peaceful protesters if activated. A spokesperson for the Guard said members would wear reflective vests to distinguish them from other uniformed forces if activated, a sign the state aims to emphasize public safety and clarity of roles. Protest organizers and civil liberties advocates have stressed that demonstrations remain largely peaceful, though federal law enforcement officers and protesters have confronted each other regularly near the Federal Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building in Minneapolis. Beyond the State Guard, the Pentagon has placed about 1,500 active-duty Army soldiers on standby in Alaska for potential deployment to Minnesota if unrest intensifies, U.S. officials told Reuters. These troops, from the 11th Airborne Division, are on prepare-to-deploy orders, but no deployment decision has been made. The heightened readiness follows repeated threats by President Donald Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act, a seldom-used 1807 law allowing the use of federal troops in domestic disturbances if state authorities cannot maintain order. While Trump later suggested there was no immediate need to use that law, the threat itself has drawn sharp criticism from state and local leaders. Saturday saw a dramatic confrontation outside Minneapolis City Hall, where hundreds of counter-protesters overwhelmed a small pro-ICE rally led by conservative influencer Jake Lang, who had planned to voice support for the Trump immigration crackdown. Lang was chased off by demonstrators opposed to federal enforcement tactics. Law enforcement reported no major injuries, though images showed Lang visibly shaken as he departed. Protesters have repeatedly decried what they view as aggressive federal tactics, including home raids and increased arrests, while local authorities and court rulings have sought to limit the use of force against peaceful demonstrators. Minnesota officials have publicly criticized the large federal presence, estimated at over 2,000 ICE and Border Patrol agents, and Hunter contrasted with the state's relatively small police force. Leaders argue the operation has disrupted daily life in immigrant communities and fueled fear rather than safety. The Justice Department is reportedly investigating whether state leaders, including Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, impeded federal enforcement, an allegation state officials have vehemently denied. As protests continue through the weekend into next week, officials at all levels emphasize their desire for peaceful demonstrations, even as national political and legal battles over immigration enforcement and federal authority intensify.